So one thing that we wanted to do, and this will probably be kind of we don't have a ton of teams to list out here like we did with our best fields draft, but we're gonna do like our favorite pregame infield to watch from teams that we've seen in the spring. And Tyler, I'll go last. I'll let you kick it off here with the team that you've got.
Well, so last spring, and this was actually one of my first games that I covered all spring, was O'Fallon. And their pregame infield was so polished, so buttoned up. It reminded me of like a college team taking IL. I mean, that's how buttoned up it was, how efficient it was, the energy, and just the overall like baseball feel of everyone on the team, all the coaches hitting fungo. It was really fun to watch, and they were by far and away my favorite team I saw take pregame infield last year. And then I know Drew's got a few that I actually saw last year as well, so I'll kick it over to him.
No, I do for sure, but I'm going to stay on this O'Fallon team for a second because I have a question. We didn't really talk about this before this podcast, but they were one of my first teams I saw, or at least like in Southern Illinois in 2015, 2016 when I started. One of my first games was going to O'Fallon, and I didn't really fully comprehend what was going on, but like they used to bring out trash cans full of balls. I don't know if they still do that.
I think they did.
Okay,
I think they did.
that was back under Coach Ports, and it was a military style pregame, and it seemed to take 20 minutes. And I did not see O'Fallon this past spring, but Coach Bauer and Coach Sipe over there, I know they were fully locked in, and that's not surprising that they would kind of keep that tradition. But yes, they would get a lot of work in their pregame, so that definitely stood out to me too. It was one on my list, but when I saw that you were taking it, I moved down, and just thinking on like kind of very buttoned up, efficient, high energy type of pregame infields, I've got to start with Huntley. It starts with, Coach Jakubowski. If you watch him during a game, pregame, he seems to constantly be locked in. He's a guy that, is out of the dugout, back and forth. Their pregame infield has a lot of pace to it. I think when we're talking pregame infields here, it's like, okay, what do we think is a good pregame infield, or what makes up a good pregame infield? I think obviously it starts with good players. It starts with a good flow to the pregame. Some teams like to really work their catchers, first baseman, second baseman, when the outfielders are throwing to bases. Sometimes the infield's just kind of stagnant. I know Mount Carmel, when they go out there, they'll have like mass fungos going to their infielders, and they'll all throw home while they're doing outfield work. So, flow and set up a pregame is something that at least I'm looking at. We're evaluating the players. So it's not something I'm fully locked in on, but being a former coach, it's impossible for me to not pay attention to. And I really like how Huntley is locked in, efficient. Guys know what's expected. You'll see pregame infields where the outfielders are airmailing, the cutoff and stuff like that. And you really know that a team is well coached just by, all right, is every outfield throw, head high or lower? How are the infielders working their feet, on the cut? Are the guys that are receiving the throws at third base or home, are they vocal? Are they owning the field? How quickly does the pregame move? Is there a lot of delay? So there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it, at least from what I'm looking at. And then, on top of that, it's who's manning that fungo? How is that fungo game? And that, I think, with my selections here, had a lot to do with it. But no, I really liked Huntley's, pregame infield. They're one of the teams that stood out to me. But Gav, go ahead with anybody that stood out to you in the past.
Yeah, so at the Kickoff Classic last year, I got to watch Brother Rice play Glenwood, and they just the way that Brother Rice takes their infield and the way that they go about the pregame is really impressive to me. And it started with the way that they played catch. They were taking it super serious. There's not a lot of joking around going on, a lot of, talking and just messing around. Like, they were taking it serious. Infielders were working on their glove work, working on transitions and or transfers, and it looked good. And then they transitioned to taking infield, outfield, and just the way they go about it, it's very serious. There's no, mistakes. Like they have a purpose, and they're not joking around. They're not messing around. It's got a good flow, like you mentioned, Drew. So, Brother Rice was a really impressive infield that I saw, or pregame infield that I saw this past year, and just one of the better ones that I had seen just from some of the games that I've been to. So, really impressed with their IO.
I'm going to throw out a couple more here, Gav. I know we mentioned O'Fallon, another Southern Illinois team, and we had him on the podcast. But Coach Funkhauser at Edwardsville, I mean, they run a great pregame. And his, to me, like, you watch him, he's always I think he tries to set the tone of, like, we're going to be very relaxed. Like he's not yelling at his guys, but we're going to be crisp. Like they know what to expect. They go out there. Like his coaching has already been done. Now he's just letting the guys go do their thing. And I feel like he gives off a very good just vibe as he's hitting his pregame. I thought Nazareth, every time I see them, they take a pretty professional, polished pregame. And then Lamont, so talk about, guys handling the fungo, who I think is good at handling the fungo. I've always enjoyed watching Coach Staracco work his pregame. The other thing, too, that makes it good in and out, and some of these coaches can't control it, but, like, it's the depth of the talent on these rosters. So, like the starters should always take a really good pregame and be crisp and not making a ton of errors and throwing balls away. But what can kind of throw off a pregame are the guys, the reserves, guys that are not maybe in the starting lineup, maybe younger guys, guys that haven't gotten a ton of reps. And, it's your second, third stringers that maybe don't make a pregame look as good. So, sometimes it does come down to like, hey, this program is just very good and has a lot of good players taking pregame versus, a team that's maybe a little thinner. Love watching St. Lawrence take pregame because I think Coach Lotus hits a great fungo. And then another guy that I think hits a great fungo that I've always enjoyed, like used to be at Brother Rice, then was at Homewood Flossmoor. Now he's at Lincoln Way East, is Coach John McCarthy. The left-handed stroke, like just you could tell he could hit back in the day. So those are just some that stick out to me. I'm sure there's some that I'm missing, but just a few just pregame infields, and it always gets me kind of ready to go for the game. It's like, all right, this is going to, like, these teams are on it. This is going to be a good game. I think the later you get in the year, too, like the better pre-games you see. Sometimes early in the year, the fields just are in terrible shape and you don't know what kind of bounce you're going to get. Guys haven't been outside much, but come that May playoff time, especially, I love it at State because they have it timed. When you go down to Peoria and it's timed and those 1A, 2A, schools are going, and maybe it's a 1A school that we haven't seen a ton of, and you really get a feel for like, okay, that shortstop's the guy I got to watch. That right fielder has a cannon, or that center fielder really moves out there. Love the way his actions are. So, you can learn a lot before the game even starts as a scout, and I think that's something we're always trying to do. I think Gavin mentioned it, like how the team plays catch, how they stretch, who's leading the pregame steal starts down the line, or what team's locked into the opposing pitcher down there. How's he throwing in the pen? Is he landing his breaking ball for a strike in the pen, or is it in the dirt every time? I think we could go on and on with this, but just highlighting some programs around the state that we think do it right, have at least stood out to us with their pregame. And it's something as like, after talking about it on this podcast, I'm going to pay even closer attention to it next time so I can shout somebody out, because I know I'm missing somebody. But yeah, Gavin, Tyler, that's what I got on a little pregame infield there.
And just while we're on this kind of topic where we've been trying to do like a little bit different segments or whatever here at the beginning, another idea that Tyler and I were talking about before you had hopped on, Drew, was like best high school logos around the state. That'd be kind of cool. I know there's some
I love that
unique like mascot team names and stuff too, so that could be kind of cool, something to talk about. But yeah,
put it on the list, Gav. Let's not forget that. Yeah.
I will.